let's go to the round robin for a second.
Right.
Let's look at the teams. In the East, you got Tampa, Boston, Washington, Philly.
Right.
In the West, you got St. Louis, Colorado, Vegas, Dallas. I'm going to name a group of teams, and then I'm going to tell you why I named them. Tampa, Boston, Washington, St. Louis, Vegas, Dallas. And you could probably put Colorado in there as far as experienced teams go. So you got seven. You got 7 teams. The only team maybe Philly, but they got Claude Giroux and some other experienced players on that team. I just think the experience that's there. Like, are you telling me that Zdeno Chara and Patrice Bergeron aren't going to have their team ready to go? Like, they're going to have their team ready to go. You don't think St. Louis is going to be ready to go? You don't think Colorado, that's been waiting for this opportunity, right? You don't think Cale Makar, who's a young player who just had a standout, you don't think he's going to be fired up and ready to go? You don't think Nathan McKinnon's going to be galloping through the neutral zone? Like, these guys are going to be ready to play. It's the Stanley Cup playoffs. There's no time to sit around and say, oh, well, I wish we had more tune-up games. No, man. You guys have had 4 months to get ready. Like, you can ramp up the intensity. I'd be ready to go. So I don't think there's going to be a huge lag for any of these teams. I think these teams are going to be ready to go. And then if we pivot to the qualifying round.
Let's do it. Let's jump right in. Let's start to preview some of this with the Eastern Conference. You have number 5.
I think this
Penguins.
is where it gets tough. This is where it gets tough. This is where it's going to be really interesting. If we're going to start Eastern Conference.
Yeah, let's start there. We'll start with number 5 Pittsburgh Penguins facing off against the number 12 Montreal Canadiens.
Listen to me. You got Crosby and Malkin. They're rested. That is going to be probably the most interesting series because of one player, in my opinion, and one player only, Carey Price. Carey Price can steal that series. That can happen. Now, he's gonna need some help because it's gonna be. But if he gets hot, forget about it. I think I can see Montreal taking that series. But I'm gonna tell you, I do not bet against Sidney Crosby. I've beaten him once in the playoffs. I've lost to him probably in the most important series in the Stanley Cup final. I know what he's capable of doing. All he needs is he just needs a breath of space, man. And he can end a game. He can change the series. As long as that guy's on the ice. And listen, I also think that, if I'm Sidney Crosby, there's a lot of talk about some of these other players. And listen, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, people talking about him being the MVP of the league. Listen to me, the best player in the league is still Sidney Crosby. That's how I feel. No disrespect to Connor McDavid. I love him. Connor McDavid is right there. There's no question about it. What he does on the ice, there's nobody in the world that can do what he does. No question. Leon Draisaitl, big, fast, can play both ends of the puck. But I'm Sidney Crosby, 3 Stanley Cup rings, okay? He does it all, and he's proven that he can do it in the biggest moments on any stage. You don't bet against Sidney Crosby. So if I'm taking a team, I'm taking Pittsburgh, but I still believe that Montreal can steal that series.
All right, number 6, Carolina Hurricanes versus number 11, New York Rangers.
That's going to be a tough series. That is going to be a fun series to watch. I think that if New York can pick up where they kind of left off, they were hot ending the season. But if you remember, they kind of struggled a little bit. They struggled with consistency throughout the season. So there's no room to be inconsistent now. You have to come out. And the thing is with Carolina's team is sort of built for this type of format. They can play a solid defense. They got a lot of players with good sticks. They play both sides of the ice. They got veteran presence in that room with Justin Williams. They got a coach behind the bench who's been through the wars, who's played in the NHL, understands it. I think that their game plan, it's going to come down to coaching that series. And I think Carolina, they got so much juice. The past couple of years, they've kind of progressing. I think that Sebastian Aho is unbelievable, and he's annoying, and he scoots around the ice. He's got a good stick. He's smart. He plays the game at a pace that not a lot of guys can play at. He's going to be tough to contain in this series. And New York's got mobile defense, but I think with Carolina, they make it so hard on you to break out of your zone. And I think that with this time off, it's going to come down to coaching and execution. And Carolina, I can tell you this, they're one of as a defenseman that's played in this league for a long time, They're one of the toughest teams to break out of your zone in. And if you can't get out of your zone here, now all of a sudden, guys are sucking wind. Guys are gripping the sticks tight because they're not in the best skating shape. You're not in the most game shape. And there's going to be a lot of turnovers. And turnovers, you can't be turning the puck over to a guy like Sebastian Aho in the playoffs. He's going to bury it. And they got, Jordan Stahl. They got a lot of guys on that team that play both sides of the puck so well. So Carolina, maybe I'm edging to them, but if New York picks up where they left off, listen to me, New York can be moving on. So
I'm going to go with Carolina based on the pros you threw in that. Number 7, New York Islanders versus number 10, Florida Panthers.
Tough series once again. These are two teams. The thing is, there's so much parity in the NHL.
Right.
Like, that's why I think that fans are so eager to watch, because there's so much parity. I mean, no one can flat out say who's going to win the Stanley Cup this year. As a player, I can give you my opinion based on the guys I play against every night and what I've seen over the past couple of years, but there's so much parity. And these two teams, New York Islanders, horrible down the stretch, right? And not horrible team, just, you could just see there's just tough bounces and just things didn't go their way. They needed a bounce down the stretch, but I look at their team and let's break it down. It starts with Matthew Barzal. In my opinion, when you talk about guys that are dynamic, that can change a game, that are game breakers in the NHL, you mentioned Connor McDavid, right? You mentioned Panarin in New York. You got to put Barzal in that category. And I can tell you this right now, it's a skating game, and there's very few guys that can skate like that guy. And in a short sprint format like this, I can see him lighten it up, and he could steal a series. Like Carey Price, he's that important to that team. And I think that, listen, they got veteran presence now in that locker room. That's what I like about the New York Islanders. They're a two-way team, and coaching. You got Barry Trotz, right? Won a Stanley Cup. He understands how to get his team to play the right way. I think that those guys now also taking time with this break are going to be looking at it and saying, you know what? We got sort of a second wind here. We got a good bounce here to take a break. Now we're not even focused on the regular season and how we ended. Forget that. This is a brand new season. And if the Islanders play to their capabilities, listen to me, the Islanders can be a team that's in the Stanley Cup final. They're that good. Yeah. So I'm just saying, with Nick Leddy on the back end, he can skate, move pucks, veteran presence. You got Andy Green, who's a shot blocker. That's going to be huge because power plays, penalty kills, special teams are always huge in the playoffs. And I think for the Islanders, Andy Green just sits in perfectly. They got Pajot, who's no one's talking about that. That's a huge signing. He's a great player on special teams. So I like the Islanders, but Florida, if they're goaltending and we know who they got in net, signed the big contract, if he plays to his capabilities, he's just like Carey Price, he can steal a series. So that's going to be a fun one to watch. But if the Islanders play to their capabilities, I think the Islanders are taking that.
All right, number 8, Toronto Maple Leafs versus number 9, Columbus Blue Jackets.
Interesting series. A lot of people would like to compare that to when Tampa played Columbus. And we know what happened in that series with Columbus moving on. This is going to be an interesting series because you got Austin Matthews, John Tavares, Mitch Marner, Willie Nylander, high octane offense. No.
Duds.
I mean, they can outscore you every game.
Yeah. So
we know that Columbus isn't going to get into a track meet with these guys. They ain't going to trade chances back and forth. So if I'm Columbus, I'm thinking, and trust me, I'm not John Tortorella, so I'm not trying to play coach here, but if I'm John Tortorella, you're going to clog up the neutral zone. You're going to force their defensemen to skate with the puck and try to make plays. And in that, they got players that can capitalize on turnovers. Cam Atkinson, Nick Foligno, all these guys can play. And they can contribute offensively. But the one thing you're getting with Columbus, you ain't getting a free pass. Another team, probably the second team in the league as far as forechecking goes, unbelievable forechecking team. And the question's going to be can the Toronto Maple Leafs defense hold up against their forecheck? Because we saw what they did to Tampa. They just kind of ran them out of the building. So, is Columbus going to have their skating legs? So I can tell you this, John Tortorella, as a coach, he's got a lot of respect in the league. He's going to make sure his guys are ready to play the system that he feels is best for them to win against the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I think it's going to be coaching again, But that is a toss-up. If the Leafs come out and their guys are scoring and they're confident, they can outscore a team like Columbus. But if Columbus slows the game down and clogs up the neutral zone, frustrates those players, I can see Columbus taking it as well. So it'll be a tight series. John Tortorella, though, I think coaching's going to be big. It's going to be a test for the Leafs. This is going to be a test. I'm interested to see how they respond. They got a lot of good players on that team. So it'll be interesting. This is the test. And we saw when Washington had played them and said, you know what, they're not ready yet. They're close. The jury's out on whether they can make that leap or not. I think they have all the players to do it. This is going to be an interesting situation, a tough test for them. But I want to see. It's a 5-game series.
So we got to pick one. If you got to pick one, who are you going? Leafs Jackets.
Oh.
Just one. Instinct.
If I got to pick one, I'm going to go with the Leafs.
Whew.
I'm going to go with the Leafs. But for Columbus Blue Jackets fans out there, it would not surprise me if Columbus took this series and took it fast. Like, that wouldn't surprise me. So,
all right, you heard it. Eastern Conference wrapped up.